Both of my children have one of those Amazon Fire tablets for kids. And I don't know if this is how it's automatically set up or just how we have it set up, but they can't download anything without our approval, which means that I have to find the Amazon parent dashboard and then find their request in order to improve it or approve it. And of course, like I don't know, I'm not tech savvy enough that I can't do it on my phone. And so I only know how to do it through my computer. And when they are waiting, they're excited, right? This game is so important to them. And so they're like, "Did you do it yet, Mom? Did you get to check it? Did you get to approve it? Did you?" And my brain wants to scream sometimes. But also, I recognize that they don't want to forget this. This is important. It's like a flashing light in their brains. And I can see the parallels between them and myself when something feels important and I don't want to forget it. And I can't move on with my life until it's resolved because I don't know how to just put it away in my brain. And so I'm here to confess that sometimes I, Chelsea, host of this podcast and professional relationship coach, can be a little naggy sometimes. And I don't love that. And I don't love the term. Like nag sounds like hag. And I just picture a frumpy, grumpy lady with a wooden spoon and an apron on nagging when I feel that way. But the reality is that it happens. And the reality is that recognition is an important step. And once you recognize these patterns, you get to enter the moment of them and make different shifts and choices as often and as good as you can. Probably it's not going to get perfect, but growth starts in the recognition and then the interruption of the pattern and then the change of the pattern. And so I want to talk with you today about getting your partner to communicate better without the nagging or resentment. You're listening to the Better Relationships After Baby podcast, where I believe things can actually be better than ever after having kids. But it takes intentional conversation, personal growth, and community to get there. I'm Chelsea Skaggs, life and relationship coach, fellow mom and wife, and lover of taboo topics. I'm here to give you insight, practical tools, and conversations to help your relationships survive and thrive through the big changes of parenthood. Let's get into today's episode. Okay, so like I said, this one's personal, okay? I've been the one who's carrying the conversation, keeping it as a flashing open tab in my brain saying, we need to talk or we need to deal with this or can we da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. My tendency is to do that first thing in the morning, and my husband's brain is not firing on 100 first thing in the morning like mine. His brain is firing at about 2 until he gets his time to warm up. And so this can be a point of contention in our home because I'm saying, how do I close this tab in my brain until we deal with it? And it kind of feels like punishment sometimes. Like you need time to think about this or you need time to warm up to the conversation. And I can't let it go. My curse is that I can't let it go. And that can feel unfair sometimes. But I have also learned how to turn this around. Again, over the last few years of recognition and then interruption and then changing the patterns. So I do want to share, not because I'm perfect, but because I have been very curious about this and have seen it play out in my own relationship and then see it play out in the relationships of the clients I'm working with. How can we do this without losing our minds or losing our voice. So, how do we get partners to show up and better communicate without us being that frumpy, grumpy lady running around with an apron and a wooden spoon? That's not who we want to become. So, this episode clearly, as I'm saying it out loud, is for the women who sometimes feel like they are an old, grumpy, frumpy, naggy hag to their husbands because far be it from a woman to care about things getting done and to keep reminding people of it. So if you don't want to be that woman, let's step into some ways that we can have a change. So one misunderstanding I think a lot of women in particular have is that communication breakdown or that shutdown isn't always about refusal on your partner's behalf. It's not always that he doesn't care. He doesn't care enough to enter this space with you. Often, it's about not knowing how to talk about deeper things, not having examples of that throughout his life, not having places where it was safe to be emotionally vulnerable and talk about those things. Maybe it's not refusal, maybe it's the fear of conflict or of being wrong. So maybe there's some ego there, and maybe there is some fear of what happens in conflict, especially if you guys have a pattern that turns spiteful or hateful and just mean. This could also be emotional shutdown after years of disconnection. It has been unsafe or unwelcomed for a long time for men to have emotions. And so I can imagine through the conversations I've had with my own husband, through the conversations I have with the male partners that I work with, I can imagine that it feels tough to break down that wall inside of yourself when your partner is asking you to be emotionally available, connected, vulnerable, and most of your life and upbringing, you were told to not be those things. And as someone who wants a good world and relationship and identity for my husband, I want him to enjoy life. I want him to be free of some of the chains that the patriarchy has put on him, the conditionings that have been placed on him through his whole life. And additionally, I'm raising a son, and far be it from me to not do everything I can to break down some of these walls and make it a safer place for him to grow up and be emotionally connected so that he can then one day enjoy, if he chooses to be in a relationship, he can enjoy the benefits that come with emotional safety and vulnerability. But these things are not always easy for people to access, I think, particularly for male partners. So that was my little rant. I've been thinking over the last couple of months a lot about how we support the growth of men and women and the gender norms that surround that and the impact of the patriarchy and what it means to try to dismantle that and create something better. I think there's a lot of women who are just, they've lost all their hope in men. And I get that. Like, that makes sense for a lot of people. I'm not one of those people. And I think there's a lot of us out there who want to be champions of the men in our lives and see it become a safer place for them to be emotionally connected. And then we get to enjoy the benefits of that as female partners. And I think that just is, it makes the world a little bit of a better place. So that number one reason why they're maybe not talking is that it maybe isn't refusal. Like maybe there's some more pieces that have to be dug through there. And it sucks to have to wait on that. It sucks to be in a place where you feel like maybe you've done more of the work than your partner has. And you're not crazy or wrong for wanting more. But if you're choosing to stand by this person, um, there might be some digging that has to be done as to why communication and conversations aren't happening. We're not trying to force partners to change. We're inviting them into something better. We're inviting them into this new level of safety and intimacy and closeness with us that makes it safe for them to become better communicators and more in touch with their emotional side. So if you're inviting them into this space, this might include starting soft. So, using the tone of invitement and not accusing. So, if you're thinking about, okay, now is a moment where I want my partner to open up to me, I can't be demanding that they come to the table and they're ready and they know how to show up the way I want. I'm inviting them to try something new. I'm inviting them to practice communication in a way that maybe they haven't been taught before. I'm inviting them to let it be a little bit awkward and messy with me because we are partners and we've chosen to do life and grow together. Okay, so think about how that's initiated with invitation. You don't have to be perfect in how you start to explore better communication and more communication with your partner, but be committed to being honest with each other and growing together and doing that even when it's a little bit awkward. Something I tried over the last probably 6 months has been using curiosity as much as possible. My good friend Rachel is a matchmaker here in Central Ohio, and she's fabulous. And one of the things she teaches as she is coaching daters and providing events and opportunities for daters, she teaches the art of curiosity, the art of not overthinking things in your own head, but truly being curious about people, not trying to impress them, not having something to prove, but being a curious human. And I think that we can all remember a time, hopefully, that someone was curious about us and it felt really good. And so, something I've really taken from Rachel over the last few months is curiosity. Um, I have tried, and it's not always perfect, but I've tried to, when I notice something that perhaps I don't agree with or I feel a defensive reaction to with my husband, I've tried to shift that to curiosity. Instead of, I can't believe you did this way, or, that accusatory tone. Okay, don't get confused here. Just because you ask a question doesn't mean you're being nice about it. I can hear some of you now being like, well, I started it with, why did you? So I was being curious. Okay, let's talk about the energy behind it here. Instead of, that's not where the dishes go, or that's not the order of the car seats in the car, which I can really notice those things. I try to say, I noticed you put the car seats back in a different order. Did that just happen, or was there a reason behind that? Not like, why did you do it? But really, truly, and sometimes I even have to say, like, no, I'm truly being curious here. I'm genuinely curious. I'm not upset that you did it differently. I'm curious, like, what do you know or what led you to make that decision? That has been a game changer, because we used to go in this cycle where I would ask a question, probably not with the energy of genuine curiosity, but probably with a tone of judgment. I would say something, and then my husband would feel defensive. And then I would go, we would go back and forth. And I'd be like, well, I was just asking a question. And he's like, well, it's the way you ask the question. And we've been stuck in that cycle before. And this true curiosity, and even like I said, I want to reemphasize, sometimes you have to say, like, babe, I'm trying to do this differently. I really am suspending my judgment, and I'm curious why you did this, because I want to learn how your brain works. I want to be even more powerful together because we have both of our our energies and our brains in sync, and I get to learn from you just by doing life with you. Like, trying to change that, man, has been a game changer, and I want you to have that also. All right, I'm going to wrap us up here. I want you to walk away knowing better communication starts with different invitations and not just louder, more frequent demands. Try this shift, please. Like, what do you have to lose? Okay, I know the patterns we can get stuck in. I know you, okay? But if you truly are wanting better communication with your partner, it starts with different invitations. Coming to the table wanting to understand who your partner is and how their brain works without initially judging or without initially needing a specific response. How can you get more curious? How can you create a space alongside your partner that is emotionally safe and a place where that vulnerability is accepted? I think your partner wants to have more conversation with you than you even know. Most of you listening to this, and it's hard. You're doing hard things. And if that's what you want, for most of you, I really think that's possible. And I encourage you to use this idea of inviting into a space instead of putting them in their place is a way that you're going to get more of that fulfillment that you want to. I believe in you. I'm so glad that there are a number of people who tune into this podcast because they want to have a stronger relationship, okay? A lot of people just let their relationship collect dust and go on autopilot and become grouchy old couples who barely even like each other anymore. But if you're here listening to this, then that means that's not you. And I think the world is shit sometimes, but I also think it gets to be a lot better starting with the foundation of relationships and family. And I'm so thankful to be able to be part of that story for you and your family. I am cheering you on. And if you need some extra support to get to the places you want to be in your relationship, to get out of that argument cycle, to practice new narratives and interactions, to develop intimacy that includes emotional safety, physical pleasure, and just that like soul connection. Hi, I'm here to support couples like exactly like you. I do have some openings still for the summer, and I would love to make this a time that you look back in 5, 10, 15 years and realize it was a massive up level of your marriage, of your relationship, of your teamwork together. And you get to celebrate how many moments that will impact in the years to come. All right. Catch me next week. Same place, same time. Be there. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you take a minute to help spread the word. As a small business owner, shares and reviews go a long way. So share this episode with a friend, share it on your social media, and please leave a review if you haven't done so. This helps these messages get to more mamas, and you guys, that's how we change the world.